I found myself in the living room of the same house I'd already managed to keep afloat 3 separate times. Once was when my father, Frederick Turnbull, had back surgery and was unable to work for several months. A second time was during the CO period, when both of my parents saw half their retirement wiped out by the market crash. The third was just last spring, when the furnace broke down ahead of a sudden cold spell, and I wired the entire payment to the contractor before they even got around to calling. On this particular day, I wasn't needed for any repairs. I was simply helping my father scan some documents for his health insurance. This had become a regular task for me. My father could never quite master the printer-scanner combo, even after a decade of trying. Frederick always claimed that I had a knack for technology, even though my experience is actually in project management, not IT, and I've been doing that for more than 10 years. He had arranged a pile of papers on the dining room table for me. I made my way through them efficiently: medical files, various Medicare paperwork, and a utility bill or three. Then something caught my eye. A thick cream folder, carefully marked in my mother's handwriting. Estate plan, final copy. I was well aware that I shouldn't look inside. That fact wasn't lost on me. Still, I had just dealt with their property tax statement the following week. 3 payments, totaling $13,200. And once I finished here, I intended to drop by the pharmacy and collect their blood pressure prescriptions, just like I always did. So, yes, I went ahead and opened it. The will inside, notarized 3 months ago, showed our home was completely paid off. There were also details about the rest of my parents' retirement funds and a life insurance benefit, all meant for my brother, Elliot Brody, 27, unemployed, still living under their roof. Elliot had quit college on 3 separate occasions. He spent several years focusing on music, which mostly meant playing in the garage and uploading videos that never managed to reach 175 views. My parents always insisted he simply hadn't discovered his true calling yet. My own name, Julia Turnbull, was also there. Just a single sentence, that was all. My parents have always shown equal love to both their children and counted on us to look out for each other. That was the sum of it. There was no reference to the taxes I had already settled. There was not a word about the money I had moved to their account on my own initiative. There was not so much as a note of gratitude. It was simply a well-mannered expression that made it clear neither I nor they owed the other anything. At first I kept quiet, my eyes fixed on the document while the scanner droned on nearby. Though my hands did not tremble, my breathing was uneven. My father, Frederick Turnbull, returned to the room carrying his coffee and asked, "Are you making progress with the rest, Julia?" I lifted the folder in my hand. "Is this really what's happening, Frederick?" I asked in a soft voice. "Everything for Elliot," I said, making him stop in his tracks with his coffee paused midway to his mouth. He let out a deep, tired exhalation, the kind that told me he understood what I had uncovered. "It's not what you imagine." I didn't ask for clarification, because his answer matched exactly what I had suspected. I resisted questioning him further, at least for the moment. My father, Frederick Turnbull, just stood there, coffee cup in hand, as if the mug might offer some sort of explanation. In a low voice, my father muttered, "We assumed you'd get it." "You're doing well, Julia," he continued. "You've always managed." That was the line my family repeated when they wanted to avoid going into detail. "You've always managed." In other words, wanting anything beyond this isn't an option for me. I set the folder back down on the table and walked outside to catch my breath. As I sat, the porch swing gave a soft groan. I'd installed that very swing by myself 3 summers back. That same week, the deck railing collapsed, and I covered the cost for a contractor to repair it because my brother complained he was between paychecks once more. I didn't mind at the time. I'd been raised with the mentality that I was supposed to handle things, to take responsibility. My entire childhood was spent in the same house, and I even shared a bedroom with my brother until I turned 13. When my father at last completed the basement, I can still picture the day he, my brother, and I painted the walls blue together. My mother came down with lemonade and declared, "Look at our little team." What a team indeed. I remained in Louisville after college because my mother told me she had trouble sleeping with me far away. I turned down a position in Philadelphia, despite being promised a higher salary and a quicker path to leadership. I convinced myself that family came first. My family never directly asked me to give anything up. They simply never mentioned that it wasn't necessary. There were small things, like paying their car insurance when they didn't have enough, picking up groceries when the SNAP renewal was held up, or calling the credit card company about late fees. And the larger things, such as transferring $6,500 from my own savings to get my parents caught up on the mortgage 5 years ago. I did these things instantly, without hesitation. All I ever wanted was to make sure they felt protected, comfortable, free from anxiety. Yet here I was, feeling like a mere afterthought. I remained on the porch swing, gazing at the old oak that stood across the lawn. My brother once etched his initials into its bark, EB plus Riley, for some girl he liked at his second high school. I sometimes question whether he ever contributed to pruning that tree. I also question whether he realized it cost $950 the previous winter, after a storm nearly cracked it in half. Did anyone ever consider all that I sacrificed? I'm not just talking about the money, but also the comfort, tranquility, and the life I might have established elsewhere. Or did they simply view me as someone who never needed to be asked because I was always the first to arrive? I remained outside. The porch swing groaned once under my weight, then grew quiet. I could still hear the low buzz of the scanner coming in through the screen door. After a short while, my mother came outside. She wore her familiar light blue cardigan, the one she always put on whenever she had something serious to discuss. It was the same cardigan I had given her a gift card for one Christmas, while my brother, Elliot Brody, had given her a CD he burned himself. She insisted that she appreciated both gifts. At first, she didn't sit down. Instead, she remained standing, nervously twisting the edge of her sleeve. "Julia," she said, not too quietly, yet not in a harsh tone either. I kept my eyes down. Regardless, she took a seat next to me. "We never intended for you to learn about this in that way." I gave a single nod. I refused to speak just to fill the silence for her. She exhaled slowly. It wasn't really a sigh, more like a gentle exhale. "It isn't that we don't care about you." But I still didn't respond. After all, what do you call care that forgets who you are when things get difficult? She gently placed her hand atop mine, and I noticed it felt warm and faintly shaking. My brother, Elliot, went through tougher circumstances. "You keep your composure, Julia. You always have. Reliable, unchanging, dependable." These are the kinds of compliments that seem generous until they become constraints, titles that let others take from you without remorse. I withdrew my hand. "You might have told me," I said, keeping my voice controlled and soft. "You could have reached out to me." She averted her gaze, looking down at the yard, then spoke softly, as if whispering might somehow lessen the weight. "We had to co-sign for my brother. He was in genuine need." The word reached me gently, not harshly. Still, I caught every nuance in her tone. 502 Bad Gateway. Unable to reach the origin service. The service may be down, or it may not be responding to traffic from cloud flared. 502 Bad Gateway. Unable to reach the origin service. The service may be down, or it may not be responding to traffic from cloud flared. My gaze fell on her, my expression not one of anger, but of exhaustion. "You didn't choose him because he needed help. You went with him because you already had a debt to pay." Her eyes grew large, yet I wasn't expecting her to reply. I was simply surprised that being with me also came at a hidden cost. I didn't send any messages. I didn't make any calls. I simply faded away. During that fourth week, I canceled the automatic payments I'd set up for their utility expenses. I removed the calendar alert for their medication refills. I suspended the grocery delivery service that normally came every Friday at 5. No grand gesture, no dramatic words, just a silent change, an absence where I had always been. 502 Bad Gateway, unable to reach the origin service. The service may be down, or it may not be responding to traffic from Cloudflared. The water bill was higher this month, my father wrote. He asked if I could check the account. I didn't reply. After that, my mother, we're out of the low-sodium crackers you always bring. My brother had forgotten. I left the notification unopened. They showed no real worry. At this point, they probably figured I was either busy, moody, or simply worn out from work. Perhaps they thought I wanted a little distance. Maybe they expected I would come around like I always did. By the fourth week, the messages from my mother felt different. She wrote, "The mortgage is due. Can you send what you usually do?" She didn't bother with a greeting. She didn't ask about my well-being. Her words were plain. An amount, a request, nothing else. I gazed at her message for quite a while. Finally, I wrote, "Ask Elliot. It's his house now." I pressed send right away. Within 5 minutes, she called. I let the phone keep ringing. A new message came through. "Please don't do this. We need to talk." But there was simply nothing remaining to discuss. Their minds were already made up. I was just, at last, acting as though my life truly counted. Later that early winter evening, Elliot spoke up. "Julia, don't blow this out of proportion. Just give them your help like usual. Like always, like it was a pattern. Almost instinctual, as if I was never anything but dependable background static." My reply was, "They picked you, Elliot, so actually step up." Elliot stayed silent. The following afternoon, I woke to a payment request from my mother. $4,800. Precisely matching the past due mortgage and late fees. No explanation, no comment, only the sum itself. I refused it. A moment later, my phone buzzed once more. And then again. Then came this. "You realize the house could be taken if you don't step in." And last, from my father. "You'd allow your mother and father to lose their home?" I almost found it funny. They weren't on the street. They were just uncomfortable for a change. For the very first time, they were starting to understand what I'd been trying to express all along. To ensure my home is always a comfortable and safe space for my father and mother, I consider how I can continue to improve and protect our environment. With more than 20 years of experience, I offer comprehensive home service solutions in France. Everything from installations to emergency repairs. My goal is to provide peace of mind and help alleviate the stress of unexpected issues. Our affordable home warranty and repair options are designed to keep my living environment in top shape, making sure it truly feels like home for everyone. I carried on softly, without making a fuss. I powered down my phone. I wasn't truly lost to them when they cut me out of the inheritance. That moment came when they expected I'd endlessly give. Afterward, 7 days of no contact followed my refusal to send the requested funds. There were no phone calls or messages. Nothing but a stillness I hadn't experienced from them in ages. Strangely, that hush felt even more overwhelming than the pleading. My sleep improved. I woke up without reaching for my phone, and I cooked meals just for myself. Yet, tranquility doesn't endure long with my relatives, especially when they're looking to assign fault. The initial indication came with a voicemail from my Aunt Harriet Fisher. My aunt hardly ever called. She always claimed she preferred not to be caught up in our family conflicts. Still that day, her voice on the machine went, "I'm staying neutral, sweetheart, but your mother is beside herself with worry. Maybe you could just reach out." At that moment, I realized they'd begun enlisting other people. I logged onto Facebook. It took just a moment to track it down. A picture of the front steps. The description below read, "We sacrificed everything for our kids, but sometimes even that isn't sufficient." Scores of likes appeared beneath it. There were several worried replies. Elliot had left one of them. Certain people assume that family revolves around finances. They neglect the fact that true family means actually being present. Afterwards, I exited the app. Not upset, just empty inside. Their feelings went beyond mere disappointment. They were altering the narrative, painting me as the antagonist instead of the caregiver, all because I had stopped letting myself be taken advantage of. The following afternoon, a letter arrived at my building. It was simple and bore no sender information. When I opened it, I found a copy of a foreclosure letter. My name wasn't listed on it, but the house number was unmistakable. I lingered over it for a moment, fixed my gaze on the sheet, and then flipped it to the back and scrawled, "Perhaps you should have let someone capable take care of it." I didn't send it. Instead, I went over to the county website. Our property was now officially marked as at risk, with overdue payments and no safety net remaining. We had run through all our savings, most likely just to keep up a front. Maybe they were hoping I'd give in before the situation got truly serious. Elliot had blown everything. All of the money my parents had set aside for him, for protection, for steadiness, for anything ahead, was gone. 502 Bad Gateway. Unable to reach the origin service. The service may be down, or it may not be responding to traffic from Cloudflared. But at this stage, I simply filled a glass with water, took a seat at the kitchen table, and allowed the house to collapse on its own. Sometimes, I don't have to spark the blaze. I just have to quit hauling the water. It began quietly. A cryptic post from my mother featuring a sunflower emoji. An image of her and my father grinning together out on the porch. We brought them up with care. We did everything we could, but sometimes love on its own falls short. No specific names were mentioned, no outright blame placed, yet I understood exactly what was meant. So did anyone familiar with our family. Aunt Carla said, "You both are such wonderful parents. You really deserve more." My father chimed in the following day. He wrote a much longer update, making his point more openly. We poured all we had into our kids. That included our time, our finances, our affection. We believed we had instilled the right values, but in the end, I simply can't dictate whether someone decides to walk away from me. Frederick tagged me in his post. He didn't bother to call or message, just put it out there for the world. I chose not to reply. Instead, I watched as the post gained traction. It racked up dozens of likes. Relatives and old acquaintances added their comments, even people I hadn't seen since my school days. One person commented, "Young people today just can't grasp what true sacrifice means." And of course, there was my brother. Naturally, he got involved. He reposted my father's message with his own statement attached. There are people who only seem to care when there's something in it for them. I would do anything to look out for my mother and father. I suppose not everyone views family through the same lens as I do. I went over the words a second time. Then I read them again. The same man who hadn't covered rent for years, who bled away our final savings, who let the home fall into disrepair, was now casting himself as the savior. The replies were even more painful to look at. "What a wonderful daughter you are. Your brother is disgraceful. They provided everything for him. He simply craved more." Nobody there understood the actual story, but none of them cared to learn it either. They were searching for a story they could believe in. And my family, in the end, gave them that story. I might have chosen to remain silent anyway, perhaps just waited for it all to blow over. Then I caught sight of Stacy Brock's name, my cousin, the one who had once told me, "You hold this family together." She tapped the like button and added a heart emoji. She didn't say a word beyond that. 502 Bad Gateway. Unable to reach the origin service. The service may be down, or it may not be responding to traffic from Cloudflared. I shut my laptop, sat surrounded by darkness, and for the first time in months, I sensed something inside me give way. It wasn't dramatic or chaotic, just a subtle, quiet snap. This wasn't only about them altering the narrative. They were removing me altogether. Their visit happened on a Friday at 5. Truthfully, I should have seen it coming. My text messages had failed, their requests for funds went unanswered, and the shame tactics had run their course, so now they were here in person. The receptionist rang at 9:33 a.m. Ms. Turnbull, your parents and a gentleman identifying himself as your brother are in the lobby. I stood in the corridor by my office, my eyes fixed on the tiles as she continued. They're requesting to come upstairs and say that it's important. Slowly I inhaled. I informed them that I was unavailable and that their visit wasn't necessary. There was a short silence before they replied that they would stay and wait. I gave a silent nod, even though nobody was watching. Let them wait then. 15 minutes later, my phone vibrated. A message from my mother arrived. We're downstairs. Let us in. Another text followed. We're not going anywhere until we've spoken with you. I took my time. I wrapped up my ongoing meeting. I replied to 3 emails before making my way downstairs. There they were, gathered near the main entrance, standing so close together it felt rehearsed. My father was standing as rigid as if preparing to deliver a speech. My mother gripped her purse tightly, her eyes darting around. My brother looked like he wished he could be anywhere except here. They both faced me as I walked through the entrance. Silence hung between us for a moment. 502 Bad Gateway. Unable to reach the origin service. The service may be down, or it may not be responding to traffic from Cloudflared. In the distance, I could hear a delivery truck driving by. I didn't respond. My father cleared his throat. You'd really allow us to lose our home because of this? I let my words hang in the air. Then you seriously believed I wouldn't speak up. He started to say something, but I quickly interrupted. You excluded me. You gave everything to my brother. And now, you're standing here asking for the same help I gave for years, never questioning it. The room was silent. My mother stepped forward, her voice gentler than before. We assumed you'd be the one to understand. You've always been resilient. I gave a small nod. She used that as her reason to ignore me. Elliot finally mumbled under his breath. I couldn't make out most of it. Something about not wanting any of this. Yet you accepted it, I pointed out. He avoided my eyes. Frederick put his hands on his hips, growing impatient. We put food on your table and raised you, so you owe us. A laugh almost escaped me. I settled that debt every month, year after year, yet you wiped me out of your lives anyway. My mother's mouth quivered. We never wanted to cause you pain. I moved a step closer. Then why did you only notice me once I was gone? Before understanding that I was the reason everything was stalled? No one replied. My brother reached out for the handle. I lifted my hand to stop him. Don't. You are not coming upstairs. You aren't going inside. I refuse to be your solution this time. No arguments, no drama, only complete calm. They didn't move. 3 people who called themselves my family. And I was finished trying to matter to those who only noticed me when it benefited them. It wasn't the rewritten will that made them lose me. They lost me the moment they assumed I'd never leave. I never blocked their contacts. I didn't need to. The quietness I left them was more powerful than any words they could ever direct at me. They continued texting for some time. My mother sent gentle messages. My father's words cooled, fault-finding and insistent. My brother hardly said anything. A final message came. Do you really think you come out on top by leaving? Removing yourself? I chose not to respond. The following week, I decided to go for a stroll. I had no real reason, just wanted to keep moving. Without thinking about it, my steps veered toward the neighborhood where my childhood unfolded. The street looked unchanged. There was still a cracked sidewalk and a fence left half-painted. But at the house, a for sale sign stood in the grass, the shutters bleached by weather, the lawn turning brown. I paused on the pavement and stared. The light above the porch wasn't on. The swing I had once repaired was missing. The wind chime that used to hang there was gone too. I didn't walk any closer. There was no need to look inside to understand what had fallen apart. That house had never protected me. I was the one who preserved it. Now, whatever was left belonged to somebody else. As I started to head away, my phone vibrated in my pocket. It happened once, then a second time. I didn't glance at it. I already knew whose name would appear. I let it go on buzzing, stop, and buzz again. Finally, I took the phone from my pocket and checked. Missed call. My mother. Missed call. My father. Then voicemail. I understood. I silenced the phone and slid it back into my jacket pocket. No explanation required. I already anticipated its contents. I made my way home through the chilly, sluggish air of an early winter evening. I felt neither upset nor justified, only released. I was never merely an option for them. They only enjoyed pretending I would stay forever. Some of us never raised our voices, but we never disappeared.